Hello guys, today I'll be doing a quick video on touching up your stainless steel bracelet, and it is all about brushing it to make it less shiny. So I'm wearing two watches because I want to show you the difference between these two. On the left I have this very cheap generic stainless steel folded bracelet, and on the other side I have, well, equally cheap or probably even cheaper bracelet, but this one is brushed. It has brushed finish, like a satin brushed, something like that, going for it. So this on the left side is a little bit too blingy for my taste. I would prefer something more, well, understated, or let's say more dull. And the watch face, actually the bezel and the watch case, are kind of polished here, but definitely not as much as this bracelet is. Basically my goal is to turn this look into this one. Okay, now I'm going to take off my watches, disassemble this bracelet, spread it across the table, and show you the next move. And just a quick reminder, as far as disassembling the bracelet, I'll be using this kind of tool. It's basically just like a flat piece of wire, and I'm going to remove this spring bar here and here. It's the same spring bar, so it is a relatively straightforward move. Just press here and it's done. The spring bar has actually left the table. Yeah, here it is. It's kind of launched, but yeah, there it is. And we have the watch all set, ready for brushing or dulling up the shine. The star of the day will be this regular rubber for like a rubber eraser. And this one is kind of interesting because it has, well, when you look it under the magnifier, under certain light, let me try to show you that. Under certain light, you can see some kind of shiny particles in it. Well, they are highly abrasive. And I guess that this eraser was made for scraping off the ink from the paper. So I guess this one is designed not to erase pencil marks, but actually pen ink, or maybe some other permanent type of dye. So it is very rough. I mean, it's kind of almost like a sanding paper, something like that. And I'll be using this one to rough up the edges, so to rough up this shine. So my idea is to try to preserve this kind of flat bar, and including these three well, prongs, I guess. On the other side we have the same, and to rough up this part, this part, this part, this part, and everything else. Probably, yeah, everything else, including this this kind of sleeve, because it will not be seen under the buckle. Yeah. So my kind of general idea is to use the flat, this flat edge, like this, and to try to keep my movements as flat and as uniform as possible. So let's give it a go. Okay, let's see if we have made any kind of changes to it. Well, to my eye, it looks definitely less polished and more brushed. So you can compare it with the other side. I don't know if the camera picks it up. Let me try to adjust the light a little bit more. Okay, now this one. You see these kind of blue markings? That's my screen reflecting. Here they are, I would say, a lot more subtle. Which means that the method is actually working. And I will be doing this, the same movement, for some time. And I'm going to cut the video now and show you the end result. Okay? Okay, so what I have discovered is that these links are not rectangular completely. They're like bean shaped, I guess. So the top is a little bit convex. So what happened is that I was actually touching up only the kind of left half of each link. So what I'm going to do now is to turn it around and do the same thing, but starting from this end, going in this direction, and I will try to, well, not mess up the bezel or the case or this kind of flat bar or sleeve that I wanted to preserve. Basically, I will do this movement again. Okay. Okay, and I ended up removing the one part of the band so I can show you the difference in what I achieved. So the bottom part is the one I treated with this eraser, and the top one is left as it was. So as you can see already, the top one is much more glossy, much more reflective than the bottom one. You can see this kind of blue reflections shimmering and dancing. On the bottom one you can still see those blue kind of effects, but they are much less defined. They are almost like a shadow. Then as we turn it like this, you can see some kind of red reflection in both of them. Look at the top one. Look at how in each of these fields you can see a part of this orange or red object, and in the bottom one you can barely see some kind of orangey thing. So again, the difference is quite obvious, I would say. So all it took me was like 2 minutes of repeatedly doing this, and I kind of I started doing like just one direction, like clear sweeps, etc. At one point I almost kind of gave up, so I held it with my fingers like this and then did in both directions like this. But that's the general idea. Anyway, I do think that the treated part looks much more, well, it looks, I don't know, this shiny one always looks kind of cheap to me, and the less shiny one looks much more refined and definitely up to my taste. So I'm going to finish up the top one, maybe touch up the bottom one a little bit more, and assemble the bracelet again so I can show you a wrist shot again compared with this one and see whether we achieved the desired result or not. So I kind of reached the maximum point of using this rubber eraser to doll it up, and it's okay, but I would like to have something even more dull. So I'm going to use this tiny strip of very cheap generic 600 grit sand paper. This is I bought this in car paint shop, I guess, and it was very cheap, like I don't know, 30 cents, 50 cents a piece. So I'm going to just use this small piece, and yeah, I will try to keep the lines again as straight as possible. I'm hoping to get some kind of uniform lines. Again, it is not crucial because these links are so tiny that even if the lines go a little bit astray, it won't be a huge issue. It would be a huge issue if I were to do the same thing on links of this size, for example, because surface is very large, very flat, and you can easily notice when the lines are kind of off. And this one is, I would say, a much easier target. So let's do it, and I will be back soon. This is supposed to be a water sand paper, but I'm using it dry. It will work just as well, and it is probably using up more of the sanding material that it is supposed to, but I don't really care. I already cut this tiny strip, so yeah. I'm pressing relatively hard with my index finger. I want to dig in the metal as much as I can. And also I want to start from the very point as much as I can, again, with preserving these parts that I wanted to. Again, it doesn't have to be really perfect. After all, this is a cheapo bracelet. Okay. Okay, I will wipe it off and then examine it closer. So I have reached a point where I'm almost satisfied with the results, but I would like to dull it up a little bit more. So I'm going to use the same sanding paper. This time I'm going to wet it up a little bit, so just a tiny drop of water, and basically same motion again. So hopefully this time it will remove a little bit more material from a little bit more metal. So I will definitely keep doing this for a couple of maybe minutes and dry up the bracelet, and then do a close-up again. And there you go. I have reached the end of my experiment. I have managed to dull it down significantly. It is still not probably as dull as this one, but I guess I'm around maybe 90% of the amount that I wanted to, and I decided to call it a day here. There is really no point in attempting to do any more with my 600 grit sandpaper. I guess if I wanted to do more, I would probably need something coarser. This one gave me kind of satisfactory results anyway. So now the sheen on the left bracelet matches the overall appearance of the watch, and it matches also the polishing level on the watch case and the bezel itself. Anyway, this has been my video about DIY brushing up the steel bracelet. Cheers.